we'll get started here with the actual cooking in a couple of minutes. So thank you for joining us this evening as usual. This is our last virtual class on the schedule, and I really don't know if we're going to have more or if we're going to switch to live classes after this. Still kind of up in the air, so we'll see what happens. But I know that we won't have classes for several weeks, probably about a month, because as I mentioned in our last video, we are going to be giving the kitchen, the cooking school kitchen here, a little update. So that is very exciting, and we are looking forward to that. I actually am going to be, everyone wish me luck and send me good thoughts, because tomorrow I'm going to attempt to remove this stovetop on my own. Muscles. So we'll see if I have a success, because I have a man coming on Saturday to try to do some adjustments for the new stovetop we have coming in. So everyone wish me luck. I think I can do it. I watched 2 YouTube videos, so I feel like I'm a pro at it at this point. We're cooking tonight our roasted shrimp with tomato and feta. So hopefully you're in the right place and you have all of your ingredients ready to go. One thing to note, you definitely want to have your shrimp peeled. So if you don't have your shrimp peeled, I mean, you could cook this recipe with the peels on, but it would just be a lot messier to eat. So I like to peel the shrimp ahead of time. And I even do remove the little tail handle pieces. Sometimes I leave those on. Basically how I decide that is if I want to be able to pick up the shrimp and eat them, or if I want to be able to eat the entire dish with silverware. So in this case, I don't really feel like it's a dish where you need to pick up the shrimp. So I take the entire shell off. Oh, thank you. Thank you. Good luck for the stove. Thank you very much. And I did save shells here. If you purchased shell-on shrimp, I recommend saving the shells, and we're just going to do one little extra step here. It takes like 2 minutes longer in the recipe and gives you an extra bold shrimp flavor. All right, I think I've chatted enough and we can actually just go ahead and get started. So we're coming to you live tonight from Willamette Valley Kitchen Company in downtown Salem. My name is Chef Amy, and tonight we are cooking a Greek dish, roasted shrimp with tomato and feta. And we are going to be making a simple shaved fennel herb salad to go on top of this dish. I hope you all really enjoy it. I think it's delicious. All of my taste testers have loved this dish, so I think it's a winner. As always, if you want to take a picture of your dinner after it's done and you'd like to share it with me, I would love to see that. We are on Facebook as Willamette Valley Kitchen Co., and we are on Instagram. Our handle is @SalemCooks. So love to see your pictures on there. All right, let's go ahead and get started. So very first thing I'm going to do, when you're making this dish, it is a 1-pot dish, and I'm using a saute pan. It's a nonstick one. It doesn't need to be a nonstick one. You could use a stainless steel or a nonstick pan, but you do want it to have a little bit of a depth, just because we're going to be making a nice sauce here. So just a thinner skillet, it might kind of overflow a little bit. So get your saute pan, and I'm just going to heat it up so that it is ready to go in a few minutes after we season our shrimp. Heat it up over medium-high heat. Okay, let's talk about our shrimp. I have nice large shrimp here. They're 21-25 size from Fitt's Seafood Market over here in Salem. So if you are local and watching us locally, it's definitely the place in town that I recommend getting your shrimp. They are delicious and fresh, and I just think they have a lot better flavor than other options. And you can buy them shell on or shell off. You pay, I think, $6 a pound more, though, to have them take the shells off for you. So I always get them shell on and take the shells off myself. It takes me about 10 minutes to shell and devein a pound of shrimp, but for me, it's worth it to just do that myself, and you end up with some shrimp shells, which will add extra flavor to your dish, so that's nice. So reserve those. Another great thing to do if you have shrimp shells is just to make a really quick little broth. And that can become the base of a simple soup or a sauce. Lots of options there, but there's tons of flavor in these, so I do like to use them on occasion. But we are going to season our shrimp. So we have 1 pound of shrimp here that have been completely peeled and deveined. For a pound of shrimp, I generally season them with a half a teaspoon of salt. And then if you've taken my classes before involving shrimp, you know I also always like to put some baking soda on my shrimp. I use a 1/4 teaspoon of baking soda per pound. And I just think that really improves the texture. Pretty much whenever, I would say pretty much whenever I cook shrimp, I do that. And it just makes them especially plump and have a nice firm texture. So I'm just stirring the shrimp so that they're evenly coated in that salt and baking soda. And then we can just set those aside. I just stick them in the fridge. I like to do this for about 15 minutes. All right. Hopefully by now our pan is hot. And so we are going to add some olive oil to the pan. So this is just extra virgin olive oil. And I am using a healthy amount, I would say. This dish is otherwise really light. It's basically just onions and tomatoes with some seasoning. So it tastes a little richer to have a little bit of a higher amount of olive oil in here at the beginning. This is extra virgin olive oil, and I'm putting in approximately a 1/4 cup, which is 4 tablespoons. We'll let that heat up for about 30 seconds, and then we're going to add in our reserved shrimp shells. So this is an optional step, as I mentioned. If you have the shells, I recommend it. If you don't have the shells, don't worry, it's still going to taste great without that. If your shells are wet from cleaning the shrimp, just be a little careful when you add them in because they will pop a little bit. We'll see if these ones are wet. So I'm just going to dump these in there. I'm just going to keep the bowl so that I can transfer them back into the bowl when once they're cooked. Just give these a little stir. They're popping a little bit, but not too much. And just like when you cook shrimp, when you cook shrimp shells, they also turn pink as they cook. So you can kind of watch for that. And you basically want to just saute them for a minute or two on a nice medium-high heat. You may start to get they'll definitely turn pink, and then they may even get a little brown color, which is good. And what this is going to do is it's going to season oil with a delicious essence of shrimp so that when we create our tomato sauce in the same pan, it will have a more delicious shrimpy flavor. So just let those hang out. You can toss them around a little bit. All right. Next thing we need here is an onion. A diced onion. And I did choose a pretty large onion. It says 1 large onion in your recipe, so I like a big one for this. And I am using a yellow onion, which is my standard thing that I use. Now you can hear those shrimp shells popping a little bit. Getting the peel off of my onion halves here. We'll get rid of that. And then we're going to go ahead and dice up this onion. You don't need to dice it into super small pieces. Kind of a medium dice is great for this. Ooh. Always be careful when you're dicing onions. They're awkward. Sometimes you have that thing happen that just happened to me where the peel kind of, one layer of the peel kind of slides off. So just be careful. And I really hear my shrimp shells popping. I'm gonna give them one more stir. They're popping a lot now as the moisture in them comes into contact with that oil. Okay. I'll take them out of there as soon as I get this other half of onion diced up. But if you're doing this step at home, you should be smelling a really delicious smell, just like if you were cooking shrimp, which we will be soon. All right. Our onion is ready to go. Okay, so I'm going to remove the shrimp shells from the pan, and I'm going to use tongs and kind of try to shake them off a little bit so that the majority of that delicious flavored oil stays in the pan. And watch out for popping oil. You know what it kind of smells like in here right now is it smells like fried shrimp, like if you were making yourself some nice deep fried shrimp at home, which I don't usually make at home. But it does have that yummy aroma. And you can kind of see, is this camera on? You can kind of see, I mentioned in the recipe, cook them until they're browned. This is a good example of how they should look. All right, we can just go ahead and discard these now. Get that pan back on the heat if you moved it over, and add in your onion. And I'm going to throw in there just a little pinch of salt as well. I never put that on the recipe, but I almost always add a pinch of salt whenever I add onions to a pan. Give those a toss. And we're going to saute those for a few minutes as we get our other ingredients ready over here. They'll probably cook. You want them to be starting to get soft and just starting to get a little bit of golden brown color on them. So it usually takes about 5 minutes. And you can kind of get all your remaining sauce ingredients ready in that time, which is handy. And just keep an eye on the heat as you're sauteing these, because you don't want them to get too dark, just a nice light golden brown color. Okay, next few ingredients. I have 4 cloves of garlic here. I've already peeled them. And I'm going to use a garlic press, so I'll just set those ready to go right there. And then we have some scallions. I'm going to use the, like up to about right here, the white and light green parts cooked with the garlic. And then I'm going to save the tops for garnish at the very end of the dish. So we can go ahead and get all of our slicing done right now. We'll just put the 2 parts in 2 different spots. Okay, so there's our white and light green parts. I'm just going to put them on my little scooper here. And then you can slice up the scallion greens and just set them aside in a small bowl. Those onions are starting to smell good. Don't forget to stir them once in a while. They're looking nice. They're definitely getting soft, but I'm not quite seeing color on them yet, so we'll let them go a little bit longer. Setting aside my scallion greens. And then we're going to need 2 liquids here to deglaze our pan. So I'm using dry vermouth. You can also use a dry white wine of your choice. I always have this in my liquor cabinet at home for making martinis, so this is what I generally use. And a little bit of Worcestershire sauce for delicious savory flavor. So we're going to add those both in. And then let's continue on looking down our list, because basically we're going to add these 2 liquids and then just let them reduce the liquid off for a very short amount of time, and then we'll add in almost all the rest of this stuff. So I am using canned diced tomatoes, and I do like to get the Muir Glen fire roasted ones. I think they add a delicious roasty flavor to this dish, kind of a smokiness. These are available just in regular, or you can also get basil and garlic ones, and those are great in this dish also. So either one. Oh yes, we have some questions. Oh yes, so we have a question about why we have scallions and onions. So basically, I like the scallion greens as a garnish. And if you wanted to, you could just do the entire scallion as a garnish. But I think the white part is a little stronger in flavor, so I think it tastes nice to cook that part. So that's really the only reason. If you wanted to, you could just use it as a garnish or leave it out. If you didn't have any, it would still be a perfectly great dish. Yes. I always get Lee and Perrin's Worcestershire sauce. We had a question about favorite brand. I know there are other brands, but I feel like they're usually more like store brands. And you know what? I have seen a fancy Worcestershire sauce that is a bourbon barrel aged Worcestershire sauce from Kentucky, but I've never tried it. So that might be my favorite, but I don't know about it yet. But I always just get the classic one. No, did someone ask that? No, I just asked. Oh, okay. No. Oh, that's pretty interesting. I know it has anchovies and tamarind. I don't know what else it has. It has lots of stuff. Vinegar, molasses, sugar, water, salt, onions, anchovies, garlic, tamarind, natural flavorings, and chili pepper. It seems totally doable. I agree, Scott. That would be a very interesting project. Homemade Worcestershire. Okay. We are going to carry on. If you can see the onions over here, they are softened and just getting a hint of golden brown around the edges. So we're going to add in our garlic and scallion, light part. You can mince this with a knife or press it with a garlic press, whatever you prefer and is easier for you. And then I'm just going to add in these little scallion pieces. Give that a stir and just saute that for 30 seconds or so until you can smell a garlicky smell. This is looking really good already. I like the color on these onions. It's just right. Okay. So now we can add in our 2 liquids. In this recipe, it's kind of funny. I keep saying 4 tablespoons of things instead of a 1/4 cup, and it's because there's nothing that requires a glass measuring cup except for those two liquids. So I figure you can just use your measuring spoons only and not get something else dirty. Normally, I would definitely say a 1/4 cup rather than 4 tablespoons, but that's why. Also, when I'm at home, I definitely don't measure any of this. I just put in a big sploosh of wine and a little dash of Worcestershire. But I wanted you all at home to be able to replicate it. Okay. Give that a little stir. Should smell good. And then just let that saute for probably a minute or less. And you should see the liquid pretty much gone out of the pan. As long as you still have it on medium-high, it should reduce down really quickly. So that's basically lifting up any kind of brown flavor that was on the bottom of the pan and kind of coating it onto your onions, basically. Okay. I see the liquid is nearly gone. So now we can add in our tomatoes, 2 cans of tomatoes. These are diced tomatoes, and I just pour in the whole thing. I find that this brand, another reason I like this brand is it doesn't have a huge amount of like watery liquid in the can. It's mostly these yummy diced tomatoes. So I just think they're really good. All right, give that a little stir. And at this point, you may want to kind of adjust your heat because now we just want to simmer this. So you can adjust your heat down closer to medium, maybe even medium-low depending on your stove. And we're going to add in a lot more ingredients now. Okay, we have some Italian parsley here, and we're going to use, I think, a 1/4 cup of it. Yes, a 1/4 cup of it in our herb salad that's going to go on top of this dish. But I like to make use of parts of the herbs that might get forgotten. And parsley stems actually have lots of parsley flavor. They're delicious. As long as you just cut them really nice and small, and we're going to simmer them for 15 minutes, so they will totally break down and won't be all stemmy. So I'm just going to thinly slice through the stems. I did trim them off, and then I, of course, ran them through a salad spinner, so they should be nice and clean. But I'm just going to thinly slice around 2 tablespoons of stems. And that'll just add a nice herbal green flavor to our dish here as it simmers. I looked up a lot of recipes for this dish because it's a traditional Greek dish. And almost all of them had you putting in the fresh parsley, including the leaves right now at this point. And I thought, that's kind of weird. I don't know. I don't like to cook parsley leaves really very much. So I figured this was a good way to get some of that flavor. And then we'll leave our nice fresh parsley leaves for our salad. Okay, stir those in. Now we have some spices. So in your recipe, I call for a 1/2 teaspoon of dried oregano, which is a classic spice used in Greece, herb used in Greece all the time. And then a little bit of red pepper flake, which is a great combination. At my house, I just wanted to mention, and if you've come to my classes, you've seen me use this. I use it all the time. This is menudo seasoning found in the Mexican spice aisle. And it has, the majority of it is those 2 ingredients. It's mostly oregano and chili flake with a little bit of like dried onion in it. So because I generally keep this at my house, this is what I usually use here. But you can do either or, whatever you have. So I'm going to use like 3/4 of a teaspoon of this stuff. There is a flavor difference between Greek oregano and Mexican oregano. So it will taste a little different than the traditional, but not enough for me to worry about it. And I think this tastes great. Okay, we have an unusual combination of spices here. So we have herbs and spices. We have our dried oregano, a little bit of chili flake, and then cumin. Cumin you might associate more often with Mexican food, but it is used all around the world. And if you think about it, Greek food and all that entire Middle Eastern area, like cumin is often found in hummus, for example. They use it a lot there in various like meat spice blends and kebabs. So it's not weird. It just seems maybe a little bit surprising. And then here we're really going to throw in something different. But this, again, is a classic spice in Greek cooking, especially in tomato sauces, to put in just a hint of cinnamon. So I'm using my 1/8 teaspoon, but I'm not even going to fill it up. Because I call for a pinch here. So I'm just doing a little, maybe not even that much, like 1/3 of my 1/8 of a teaspoon. I don't want this to taste like Cinnamon Toast Crunch. I want it to just have a hint where people go, what's that? So that's what we're looking for here is, your chef's secret spice. Okay, get all of those spices stirred in. We can season this with some salt and pepper. Don't go overboard with the salt because shrimp themselves are kind of inherently salty, and we're going to top this with broiled feta cheese, which is quite a salty cheese. So put in a little salt, but don't go overboard. We're going to taste the sauce before we put the shrimp and feta on, so you'll have a chance to correct it if you want to. And some pepper. Up to you how much you like. Okay, so just give that a stir. And we're just going to simmer it. Maybe have it down on medium low just so it's bubbling a little bit for about 15 minutes. And we are just trying to bring all the flavors together nicely so we have a cohesive sauce. We want to cook off the canned flavor of the tomatoes. Even though these tomatoes are a good quality canned tomato, you don't want your sauce to just taste like you just dumped in a can of tomatoes. You want it to kind of taste like a nice slow cooked sauce. And we're also, we do want to reduce the liquid in here a little bit. It's not horribly soupy even at this point, but I like to get it even a little bit thickened up more than that. So keep an eye on your heat. I just turned it down and I might have turned it down too much. It didn't go off, did it? No. I think I just turned it down a little bit too much. So you do want to see some bubbles. There we go. And I'm going to set my timer for 15 minutes. It says 15 to 20, so it kind of depends on how quickly your sauce is reducing and how much time you have. I always kind of go on the lower end while I'm on camera, so we're not waiting around forever and ever. But if you want to simmer it a little longer at your house, that's certainly fine. Okay, we're going to get started on the other part of our recipe here in just a moment. But just a reminder, if you do have any questions, feel free to type them into the chat, and I'm happy to answer them. Okay. Let's just go over the remaining ingredients that we are going to need once this sauce is cooked, just to make sure you have everything available. I like to put in a tablespoon of butter because it's delicious. Yay, butter! It's totally optional if you're trying to be lower in fat. You don't need to add in this butter, but it does kind of round out the sauce and kind of balance out the acid of the tomatoes a little bit. So that is optional, but a tablespoon of butter is delicious in there. And then, of course, we have our shrimp with the salt and baking soda on them in the fridge, ready to go. So we'll just pull those out when we need them. Let's talk about feta cheese. I do love feta cheese, and I like to get a good quality one when I can. I'm pretty pleased with there's actually 2 good feta cheeses available, really good feta cheeses available at Trader Joe's, in my opinion. So I chose this one today. I've been kind of switching back and forth. I haven't quite decided which one I like the best. But this one is Israeli. The other one is from Greece. And they both are nice because they both come in a nice tub with actual brine. This one has its little basket that you can lift the cheese out with. The other one has more like 2 thin blocks of cheese, but they are down in a brine. So that's really what you want to look for, a good feta cheese in a brine, and it's going to be flavorful. Another thing I like to look for is feta cheese really ought to be at least partially sheep's milk, and that gives it its own particular flavor and twang. Sheep's milk is kind of the twangiest. Is it more twangy than goat? They're both twangy in different ways. Yeah, good. Feta? Maybe. I don't know either. We had a comment on there about Odyssey as a great brand. Is that for feta? For feta that I think it was Sarah was talking about? Just curious. I'm not familiar with that. Or was it butter? I don't know. Which one? Anyway, our feta is here ready to go. This is a ½ brick, so I'm going to use about half of this for the recipe. And I'll just leave it in the fridge and crumble it right on top directly onto the pan. Oh, nice. Okay. That sounds excellent. So check out, if you see Odyssey feta, try it out. It's highly recommended. And then we have our scallion tops, which are going to be a garnish. Another little thing I like on this dish, which, again, totally optional, is I think maybe it sounds strange, maybe it sounds delicious to you, I don't know, but I think a tiny thin drizzle of honey on the top of this dish is excellent. So the tomato sauce is, it's acidic flavored from the tomatoes, and then we have the cheese, which is salty and more acid. Feta is a very sour kind of acid flavored cheese. So I just think just a little bit, if you've ever had honey like on a cheese platter before, it's good on a lot of different kinds of cheeses, and I think it's really good on this. So I'll let you decide if you want to do that, but I have my honey ready to go here. All right, let's work on our little salad. And you can have plenty of time to create your herb salad while this is simmering so that everything comes together at the end just right. I decided I was going to, normally in class I have my fennel already all trimmed up and ready to go. And I decided maybe I should show how to trim fennel right from the start so that you all can see how that goes, because it's kind of, if you've never worked with fennel before, it's kind of a awkward vegetable when you get it at the store. So I have my fennel. See, I haven't done anything to it yet. The only store I know that sells them already cleaned is Trader Joe's, and you have to buy multiple bulbs at once in a little plastic container. So that can be handy if you need a lot of fennel, but otherwise you usually have to buy them like this. Look at this. There's a piece of grass. This is just wild. Okay. So it has these big frondy stems. Now you can use the fronds if you want to, and you could add them to your salad. I feel like, I'm going to eat some right now. I always feel like these have less flavor than I want them to. Let's see. It's a little fennel-y. I don't know. It doesn't taste as good to me as the fennel bulb. I tend to not use the stems, even though it seems like you're throwing away so much stuff. Maybe you have chickens and you can feed them the fennel stems, and I bet they would really like that. But Yeah, and you don't want to use the like celery looking thick stems. You only would want to use the fronds, and I just feel like they're kind of, I don't use them. So I trim off those stems. Just get rid of that. And take a look at your fennel bulb. If it's looking nice and clean and you don't even have any layers that need to be peeled off, you could just give it a rinse. I think I have a fennel frond stuck in my throat. Oh my God. There we go. Okay, so here is my fennel bulb. This one actually does look really clean. Oftentimes I will peel off an entire layer because it's all bruised and brown looking, but this one looks nice. So I am just going to rinse it. I'm going to trim off the bottom just a little bit, just to get that brown layer off. And then I'm going to rinse it really quick. All right, so here's what I do. The fennel bulb has a thick core similar to a head of cabbage. So what I most often do with fennel is I shave it, and that's what we're going to do today. So I have a little thin slicer here, and I have it set very thin, which is what I want. And because I'm going to shave it using this, I can leave the core in and kind of use that almost as a handle. So I'm going to cut it right down the center. And then you will see the core right there. Yeah, is that good? So here's the core. You don't want to eat that. It's not good to eat. So what I'm going to try to do is shave at a diagonal all around the core, so I just leave the core. So that's my goal here. And if you're slicing it by hand, it would be the same exact idea. You would just want to slice it and start kind of moving in a diagonal way so that you're ending up right in line with that core. Be careful if you're using a slicer. I promise I'm being careful. And when I get down close to where my fingers are, I will definitely switch to my little handle. This particular slicer slices both directions, which is very handy for fennel, because it slices nice and thin and it goes really quickly. So can you see how I'm starting to angle to be in line with that core? That's what I'm going for here, so I waste as little as possible. Okay, so I have kind of a triangle. I'm going that way, I'm going that way, and then I'm going that way. And I'm just going to keep going, but first I'm going to stir the sauce. You can see this is getting thick. You know what? Another thing that would be good in this sauce would be to crack some eggs on top of it. If you didn't want to have shrimp, you wanted to have a vegetarian dinner. Would be kind of similar to, there's a dish called Shakshuka, which is similar, but it has chili peppers in it also, where you crack eggs and kind of let them simmer on top of the sauce. So I think that would be yummy also. Just an idea. All right, I can go a little bit more. Hopefully you all can see what I'm doing here, avoiding this core. And this core is actually large enough that I'm able to just hold this and not even use my little finger guard. Okay, I think that's as far as I'm going to go safely. So there's my core. I went around it on all sides. Let's look at our fennel here. So you can see even just this one little fennel bulb is going to give us a nice big bowl of shaved fennel salad. It kind of grows when you shave it, which is great. And this is very thin. It's paper thin. Okay, I'm going to do the same thing with our second half. Again, if you are using one of these slicers, just be very careful. I always hate, and I hope I'm not causing you all to cringe, but I hate watching people use a mandolin on TV because you know, if you're watching like a Food Network show or Chopped, I always feel like they zoom in on the person mandolining something because he's going to cut his finger at any moment. And so I'm just there like a horror movie, like, no! So I'm being very careful. That's not going to happen today. But if you need to close your eyes, go ahead. Okay, we're getting there. I've got my triangular piece going around the core, and I'm just going to do a few more slices on each side. All right, that looks great. So we have our beautiful bowl of shaved fennel. I love, love, love fennel. So it always smells really good and fresh to me. And what I always like to do with shaved fennel, because it's a nice white vegetable and it can start to oxidize a little bit, is immediately the next thing I do is always get some lemon juice on there. And I think just in general, the combination of fennel with a nice bright hit of lemon juice just tastes really good anyway. So I said 1 small lemon, but I feel like that was a pretty juicy lemon. I'm going to toss this and give it a little taste. And I might only need, oh, there's more fennel in here than I thought. I might use both halves. Let's see what it tastes like. Stir in that lemon juice and give one little taste and see if it's already lemony. I'm going to use the second half. Okay. So toss it with the lemon juice first. And then you can add salt and pepper. Just to your taste, so season it. And then see what you think. Give it another taste. We're closing in on 15 minutes here on our sauce, and it's looking great. So I think that timer is going to go off any minute. Let's just set that aside and we'll do the herbs in just a moment. We're on 10-second countdown. I'm just going to turn this off. Give this a stir. So this is kind of what I'm looking for. It's still saucy when you shake it like that, but when you scrape it, a bunch of liquid doesn't pour in. So really most of the liquid is reduced, which is great. So there is our nice sauce base. At this point you can, if you are using your butter, where's my little butter? You can go ahead and stir in your butter and just stir it in until it's melted. I'll let that melt there, and I'm going to grab the shrimp out of the fridge. Okay, so if you're using your butter, let it melt, and then give this sauce a taste. Keeping in mind that you're going to add shrimp and cheese, but give it a taste and see if you think it needs more salt or more pepper. I think mine is really close, but I'm going to put in a small pinch more salt. Okay. Stir your seasonings in if you added more, and then just get this sauce arranged so it's all in a nice flat layer in your pan. We're going to turn on the broiler, and then we're going to arrange the shrimp on top of there. So you can pull the pan off of the heat for a second if you want to. And I do like to arrange this. I take my time and actually arrange them so that they're pretty, just because I think it's really nice. I'm not going to ever stir them in, so they are just sitting up on top so that they can finish cooking properly in the broiler. Oh, I think I've planned this just right for once. Normally I'm trying to cram a few more in. I might have to cram one in. Okay, we have one left. I'll find a little spot for it over here. There we go. Okay, once your shrimp are arranged, you can set this back on the burner. And we are going to let it simmer for, it takes usually about 4 minutes. And what you're looking for is the edges of the shrimp coming up from the bottom to be turning pink. You don't need the tops to be turning pink because that will happen in the broiler. I'm going to keep an eye on these, but I'm setting a timer also just to remind myself. And I'm turning this, I think I had turned it up a little bit, but I'm turning it back down because it seems a little hot right now. There we go. I have it about on medium. Okay. Let's add some herbs to this salad. So we used our Italian parsley stems earlier in our shrimp sauce. And now you need about a 1/4 cup of this whole herb. The herb amounts in this recipe are completely up to you. You don't have to buy 3 different herbs to make this salad. If you just want to do fennel and parsley, that's awesome. If you want to do fennel, parsley, and dill, that's awesome. Whatever you like. But some combination, did I say fennel? Oh, fennel, yeah, fennel, we have fennel. Some combination of parsley, dill, and mint is lovely in here. Again, I did not bother removing the leaves from the parsley stems. I just kind of sliced through it somewhat thinly, and I think that's just going to be great. And now I'm going to mince these up a little bit more. Like so. There's our Italian parsley. I wonder if there's such a thing as Greek parsley. No one ever talks about that. It's a mystery. I have some fresh mint. Mint I generally don't slice with my knife. You can chiffonade mint, but I don't do it very often. I generally just pull the leaves off of the stems and tear them into small pieces. I don't know, it's just my thing, and I have a good explanation for why. So theoretically, mint is more liable to turn brown when you slice it with a metal knife. You could use a ceramic knife, and I have a ceramic knife, but more often I just tend to tear it up because I just like it that way. Okay, Let's see. Maybe we'll do one more. We were looking for around a 1/4 cup here. We'll do that much. I'm keeping an eye on my shrimp, and they're doing just what I want them to, and they're getting close. I can see some pink color definitely around the edges starting to happen. You want to give your pan a little shake, but don't stir. You don't want your shrimp to be disturbed. Okay, and then lastly, if you're using all 3 herbs, I have some dill. And the dill I do mince up just because it's so frondy. I don't like the texture of it, just like that fennel that got stuck in my throat. It's the same texture, so I do like to mince up the dill. I'm using a little less dill than the other 2. All right, let's take a look at this shrimp pan. And it's looking great. So hopefully you can see that on the camera. As the heat is coming up from the bottom, it's cooking the shrimp on the bottom. And in fact, I would assume if we took one of these and flipped it over, it would look a lot more cooked on that side than on this side. But we're going to now cook it from the top here in just a moment. So grab you can leave it on the burner for now if I think this still needs like maybe 1 more minute, but I'm going to grab the feta cheese and get it ready. And don't forget to have your broiler on because that's where this is going next. Okay, we'll set our dill over there for a second. And I'm going to lift out this little lovely piece of feta and use about half of it. Maybe I'll use my knife. Okay. The rest of it, if you're not using it all, definitely store the remainder in the brine. And it should last nicely in your fridge for quite a while like that. Be aware that is brine, not just water. So you wouldn't want to dump that out and fill it with fresh water. That would not preserve your feta properly. Okay, so I have my chunk of feta cheese, and are we feeling good about this? I think we are. Let's do it. We don't want our shrimp to get overcooked. So I see nice pink coming up the sides. I'm going to take this off the heat, and I'm just going to liberally crumble feta cheese all over it, about 1/4 pound. Feta is a cheese that doesn't melt in the way that, like, Monterey Jack does, where it gets soft and gooey, but it does brown, and it gets really nice when it's brown and a little bit bubbly. So broiling feta is a great way to go. All right, there's our cheese. Let me give my hands a quick wash. And this is just going to go right into the broiler. If you have a normal broiler, like my broiler at home, I would consider a normal broiler. It usually takes 3 to 4 minutes for the shrimp to be pink on the top and the feta to be starting to brown. This broiler is like a mega broiler, so I'm going to watch it really closely, and it might not take that long. So I'm setting that broiler timer for just 2 minutes. But again, that's just because it's really extra strong. Keep an eye on your pan either way. Okay, back to finishing up our salad here. I have my little pile of dill that I am going to finely mince. Okay, there's our dill. Everything is in here now, but a touch of olive oil. So you can go ahead and stir this up. There was just a little funky looking piece of mint. Got rid of that. I generally don't measure the olive oil for this. I just do a nice drizzle just to kind of balance out that lemon juice that's in there. All right. So here is our fresh fennel herb salad. Oh yeah, that would be good. It would be peppery. Oh yes. So someone mentioned that you could try baby arugula in this salad in place of one or more of the herbs, and that would be delightful. You can really put whatever you like in this salad. It's just going to add a nice bright freshness. So anything you like that is nice and fresh and vibrant could go in here and add crunch and freshness on top of your shrimp. Okay, so that's been 2 minutes. So I'm gonna go check it, see how it's doing. I'm putting it on for 1 more minute. Even in the mega broiler, the shrimp is looking excellent, just about there, but I like a little more brown on the cheese. So that's what I'm waiting for there. Okay, so we are just about ready to finish this dish up. As I mentioned on the recipe and on the shopping list, I believe, I like this dish served with toasted bread, especially toasted sourdough. I just think it tastes really good. And that works as a perfect meal for me. If that is a little too non-dinnery for you, you could definitely put this over cooked rice or any cooked grain or pasta, really anything you like. You could put it over quinoa, you could put it over anything you like. So it's very versatile. It's just going to be a nice, delicious, flavorful sauce with the shrimp and the cheese, and any kind of carby thing will be wonderful. Okay. So good. All right. I guess I should keep that on there so I don't burn myself. Our shrimp is out of the oven. You can see it went from being mostly gray to being nice, beautiful pink shrimp. One way you can kind of know that your shrimp are nicely cooked is they should be pink and opaque, but they haven't yet curled all the way up into a little circle. So they're still holding their like C shrimp shape rather than being all the way curled up. If they're all the way curled up, that usually means they're overcooked. So these are looking great. They're just how I want them. I might have liked the cheese to be a little darker, but I didn't want the shrimp to get overcooked, and I would veer in that direction rather than dark cheese. So I took them out. I think it's perfect. Yeah, let's go ahead and plate this. So we have our shrimp part. We have our toast here. This is so funny. This is like totally stale prop toast that I made first thing in the morning before I came to work because I don't have a toaster here. So I had to bring toast from home, but when I go home tonight, I'm going to make myself fresh toast because this is very dry. Okay, so I have my toast. Let's get a spoon. You could also, if you like to serve family style, you could definitely bring this beautiful pan of shrimp with the nicely arranged design right out to the table and just have everyone serve themselves. And I think that would be lovely. But I'm going to plate it up here. So just make sure you get all the layers all the way down into that nice tasty sauce. And then I'm going to grab a little tongs so that this can look as cute as possible. If you use tongs for your little salads like this, you can make a little cute mound of salad that will sit up and give you good height, like that. And then if you're going for the optional honey, you don't want big blobs of honey. So let your honey kind of come out in kind of like a thready kind of drizzle. Like that. You're going to get one blob. Oh, I got 2 blobs, but you don't need a lot there. Maybe that much. That was probably a teaspoon, maybe not even that. Okay. Is this in a good spot? Okay. There is our finished product. Nice. We're pretty much right on time. We have our roasted shrimp with tomato and feta, topped with a delicious, fresh, crunchy, shaved fennel and herb salad. Little drizzle of honey if you like that, and I'm serving it tonight with toasted sourdough. So, I hope you enjoyed, or are going to enjoy this meal. I hope it's delicious for you and your family. Thank you so much for joining us tonight, and if you've been coming to lots of these classes, thank you for joining in on. Like I said, I don't know yet if this is going to be our last virtual class or not, so we shall just see what happens. I have loved having these virtual classes, and I hope you all have enjoyed them too. And tune in sometime in the not too distant future, and we will have a slightly new look to our kitchen. The cabinets are staying the same because they're in great shape, so they're not changing at all, but mostly everything else is. So I think it's going to look great. So stay tuned for that. And does anybody have any last minute questions? Thank you, Gretchen. Glad you could join us tonight. All right. I know I like to wait 10 seconds because there might be a little delay, but I think we are good to go. So thank you, everyone. Have a lovely evening.